I don't know about you, but I am flooded with videos about how to invest in comics, how to flip, how to manipulate a book for profit, or other ways to squeeze more green paper out of your old funny paper. Heck, I made a few of those videos myself, and I'll probably make more. And then, like a breath of fresh air, I receive this. I'm at a crossroads in my collection goals and would like more clarity on what I really want versus what I could let go. How do I dig deep to realize what I truly desire and strategize to obtain that goal? Maybe I need a therapist. Don't we all, Dan? It really got me to think, what books bring me joy and why? Sorry, quant heads, analyzing prices won't get us there. Instead, it's identifying our collecting North Stars and asking the right questions and searching our souls to find the answers. While your journey is not the same as mine, I thought I'd share my process in the hopes it might help you out. I took a few hours, held book after book in my hand, and recorded how I felt and what came to mind. A few North Stars emerged, and the first one is satisfying the 11-year-old me. There's something magical about recapturing that joy or fulfilling a dream from years past. If you're lucky enough to still have some books from your childhood days, ask this question. When you hold it in your hand, do you have good memories about the book? Do you remember the stories in it, or do you remember where you picked it up? I remember growing up in Campbell County, Virginia. About a quarter mile away from me was an old mini market. I'd bike there, go in the front door, and to my immediate left, there was a rack of comic books. And that's where I picked up this beauty. It has an amazing Storm Shadow cover. I remember like it was yesterday, seeing that book and thinking, oh my God, that's my favorite villain in G.I. Joe. Got it off the rack. As you can see, this book is pretty beat up. If I put it up on eBay, it likely wouldn't fetch more than a couple bucks. I couldn't care less about how much somebody else would pay for it, because this one's never coming out of my personal collection. Does a book like this come to mind for you? To me, this is comic book collecting in its purest form. Was there a run that you wanted to complete as a kid, but somehow you missed an important issue or two, and that's bugged you for years and years? Let me share my most painful memory. I collected Amazing Spider-Man religiously from issue 279 forward, month after month. And then, inexplicably, I missed a couple issues. Well, it happened to be at the worst time. What's missing? The grail of the decade, Amazing Spider-Man number 300. It was a hole in the run and a hole in my heart that lasted for decades. Fortunately, I was able to finally right that wrong. Closing these loops can be a gratifying part of the hobby. Another question, what were the pipe dream books when you were a kid? Something that seemed ancient and something that was so expensive that you just had no way of paying for it. One of my favorite characters was Iron Man, and I remember seeing that strange first appearance. He looked like a buff Tin Man. And I thought, gosh, it would be amazing to get it, but I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a billionaire, I'm never going to be able to get it. Fast forward a few decades, I've got a little bit of money, and I thought, let's go grab that book. And my 11-year-old self would be in shock to know that he would one day have this type of book in his possession. Let's move beyond satisfying our inner child. North Star number 2, respect for the game. About 12 years ago, I started collecting again. So much to learn, so much to explore. Is there a book you respect because it's an important marker of world history? It's late 1941 and the United States is building up its courage to jump into World War II. No book better expresses this sentiment than Captain America Comics number 1. It's like, no, we're not going to gradually go in with a toe in the water. What we're going to do is we're going to go right up to Hitler and hit him in the face. What an important book at a pivotal time in history. Is there a book you respect because of its importance to the hobby? Two huge figures in the hobby are Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. They had worked together on and off since the 1940s. They hit gold yet again, or should I say silver, in 1961 with Fantastic Four number 1. Whenever I hold this book in my hands, it feels like ground zero for the modern Marvel Universe. If it weren't for this book, I'm not sure we'd have Spider-Man, the MCU, and so forth. It is so important to the hobby. Is there a book you appreciate because where it came from? Some old books have emerged from amazing collections, like the mile-high copies discovered in Edgar Church's Cedar Closet. Others have passed through the hands of famous collectors. Here's my buddy Alex, happy as a clam, holding up his copy of Weird Mysteries number 5 of the Northland Pedigree and previously owned by Nicolas Cage. If you like to tell stories about where your comic books came from, this may be a sweet spot for you. Before I get to the third North Star, let me throw in a bonus tip. Have you ever sold or traded a comic book and once it's gone, you miss it so much? As 80s hairband Cinderella accurately diagnosed, you don't know what you got till it's gone. If you can, try to reacquire these books because that's the ultimate test. If you let it go, you don't care, leave it alone. If you let it go and it haunts you on a daily basis, get that book back. And there's one in particular that bugged me almost on a daily basis until I finally got it back in my collection. More on that later. My third North Star is more surface level, but that's okay because we're talking about comic book covers. What are the best covers of your favorite superheroes or supervillains? Silver Surfer, Thor, coming at each other at ungodly speeds, and right before the impact, boom, is a snapshot. It is a wonderful, wonderful cover. Every time I see it, I get excited. What are those covers for you? Fortunately, this area doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, today there are so many great covers at all different ages and at different price points. Are there covers that were love at first sight for you? I remember going to the CGC boards and seeing this magnificent image. It's 7 Seas Comics number 4 by Matt Baker, a sublime underwater scene. I knew at that moment that I had to get this book. Vision narrowed, and I got it within a couple months, which is hard to do because it is a rare golden age book. If you see a book like that that just strikes you viscerally, get it and then follow that artist. From there, I picked up other Baker books, and they are all gorgeous. On the other end of the continuum, are there covers that grew on you over time? At first blush, this book didn't do much for me. But over time, I became infatuated and am glad to have Chamber of Chills number 19 in my collection. Let's move to the final North Star. Do you own copies of a book that pleases you because of the way it looks? The aesthetics, if you will. Let me make a distinction here. I'm not talking about an issue of a book you think is beautiful. I'm talking about attributes of a specific copy you love. Here are some questions you may ask. Do you own a book that's an all-around stunner? A killer example of a favorite comic. I own this copy of Thrilling 63. It's the lone highest graded by CGC. Everything about it is beautiful. The colors pop, it's centered well, it's hard to spot a single flaw. And this is a book from 1948. It makes me happy and I'm proud every time I look at it. Do you own a book that has an unusual positive attribute? In another video, my buddy Ben Labanog pointed out details like the double quotation mark being intact for Tales of Suspense 39. Or the monster's mouth having no blemishes for Fantastic Four number 1. And check this one out, it's my personal favorite. What don't you see in this copy, or this copy, or this copy? The lasso are missing, and that bugs the hell out of me. But this 8.5 copy of Exciting 63 has a lasso in its full glory. Call me insane, but I wouldn't trade my 8.5 copy straight up for the Promise Collection 9.4. Nice book, but incomplete lasso? Get it out of here. Speaking of which, this is closely related. Sometimes a book is accurately graded, but it has exceptional eye appeal for grade. This is Marvel Mystery Comics number 40. A book I was hunting down for 10 years, finally got a copy. It's a measly 2.0, but for a 2.0, it shows really well. Super happy to get it, and even though it is only good, still love it. Indeed, sometimes multiple attributes across several North Stars come into play for a single book. Spider-Man has always been a favorite character of mine. When I got back into collecting, I bought 2 copies and was happy to have them, a 4.5 and a 4.0. 2 years later, I was a fool and sold both copies to get other books. Honestly, my collection felt naked without the first appearance of my favorite superhero. Then I ended up getting this copy. It's a 3.5 and it's the favorite copy that I've had, even though it's a lower grade. I think it looks really nice, and read my lips, no Marvel chipping. As much as I love this book, it doesn't crack my list of all-time favorites, which you can see in this video. If you're new to this channel and this guide has helped you out, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching, my friends, and I hope to see you around real soon.